Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction. Join our hosts as they speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Friends in Recovery Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jersey Ed, along with Noontime with Sky and Tiff. And do we have a show for you guys today? We have a special guest, Carl from SoberPod. He will be on with us speaking about Step 2. And I also would like to welcome the SoberPod family, everybody. So SoberPod will be listening to this show. And so we just want to welcome the family. Today, we're going to be using, because we're going over Step 2. It is the beginning of the month, and we're starting off with Step 2 this month. The books we're going to be using today, I'll give you the heads up real quick, is the 12 and 12. Cora and I will be reading from that, and probably Tiff. The big book, that'll be Tiff. And NA, How and Why, Basic Text, and the workbook. Skylar will be reading from that. So if you want to grab those books while we're kind of chatting it up here, it'd be great. So I just want to give everybody an update on our website. It's coming close, guys. It's getting there. It's very, very close. We're just trying to get the YouTube stuff over into it now and all that good stuff. So another week or two, we should have that up. So it's friendsinrecoverycommunity.org, friendsinrecoverycommunity.org, and you'll see it flashing.
No S.
Zero S. So, and one other thing I always want to, I forget to talk about is our Telegraph support, guys. We're on an app called Telegraph, and if you would like to get on Telegraph.
Telegram.
Oh, Telegram. Oh, Telegraph.
You gotta go old school.
Well, I'm on Telegraph. You guys might be on Telegram. So
That's
me
why
and Carl on Telegram. I was wondering why nobody else comments. So, but yeah, Telegram.
No one's talking to Ed.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I would say some good shit, and nobody's saying anything back. Like, you know,
Created his own social network. He's like, I'm on my own.
I even have it written down here. So as Telegraph. I'm like, what the fuck? That is what's his name? Alexander Graham Bell's app that he just put out. So, anyways, and then the other thing, guys, if you want to email us at help at friendsinrecoverypodcast.com, any suggestions about the shows, and if you want to be a guest, if you have your sober shout outs, which we'll get to in a minute, please email us there too, help at friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. Tiffany's going to go over some meeting stuff with us. Go ahead, Tiff.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Tiffany. I am a friend in recovery, an addict and an alcoholic. And here is our meeting list. In addition to our twice daily meetings, which are offered at both 12 p.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, twice a day, guys, 12-step meetings. We also have speaker meetings, step meetings, living clean meetings, topic discussion, literature discussion. Of course, that shout out for the Big Book Study, which is on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. The Alumni and Friends group, which is at 8 p.m. on Tuesday nights. We have the meditation group, the loved ones group, which is for our support persons and loved ones on Monday nights at 8 p.m. We have adventure plannings and more. And you can find all of our meeting lists at genesishouse.net under connections. And of course, once we get our Friends in Recovery website up and running, you'll be able to find all the meetings there. We also have our coin challenge. As you could have seen just a second ago, Carl was holding up his coin. When you attend any 30 Friends in Recovery meetings, you will earn the very highly sought after Friends in Recovery Zooming Through Recovery coin. And once you hit the 30 meetings, you can either comment below, or you can let any of the hosts know on the meetings that you're attending, and we will get your coin out, which is heavy and
beautiful.
And
Nice
it
and
has
thick.
Bill and Bob zooming through recovery with their masks on.
You might
So
be able
those are
to hurt
meetings.
somebody with
We
this
also have
coin.
a
Yeah.
celebration meeting. Our celebration meetings are on the last Saturday of the month. So the last Saturday of the month, we host our celebration meeting, which is hosted by our fearless leader, Ed Chancio, Jersey Ed, on Saturday nights. Anyway, I'm screwing this all up, Carl.
Well,
But
do you-
anyway, you can't.
what about the lobster meeting? Do you have a friggin' lobster meeting? Where's that? When do we do that?
We're gonna have a talk at the end about lobster, okay?
Yeah, lab stuff. Anyway, our celebration meetings are on the last Saturday of the month, and we celebrate 30, 60, 90 days, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, multiple years of recovery. So join us on that meeting at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the last Saturday of the month. And that's our meeting lists.
Thanks.
Who's
Tiff.
up next?
Sky.
Bada, hey, bada. So if you go to the Genesis House Facebook page like that, attached to the Genesis House Facebook page are some groups you can get involved in. You have the Friends in Recovery group. Anybody can join that. There's the alumni only group. That's obviously for alumni. You have to answer when you went there and stuff. And then there's also the Friends in Recovery Adventures group as well. If you have a problem finding any of this stuff, just comment below and we will reach out to you and get you the links and all.
Absolutely.
If you guys want to get into a simple way of service, write a letter to someone at Genesis House, someone in treatment. It's a nice way to get back a little bit of your time. And sometimes we're getting in service early. We don't know how to get in service, right? But here's like an easy way, And then also we have something called a Unity contact. If you guys need phone numbers, we got them. If you need someone to reach out to, we got it. So comment below or reach out to one of us or email us and we will get you some phone numbers.
If you'd like to send out dick pics, this is a perfect list for that. If you just want to
Wow.
you just want to make sure that like at least 15 people a day get your dick. It's just totally.
This is part of Sober Pod, guys. So this
Oh my gosh.
And we just
shit will
became
come
Genesis
up.
House.
Yeah.
See, Sober Pod listeners are like, yeah, that's cool. It's like normal. Friends of Recovery listeners are like, what the fuck did
Like,
They
this
just crash their
happen
car
here?
if they're driving. If they're driving, they just ran off the road.
Oh yeah, you're gonna get a lot of complaints. I'm sorry.
My mom listens to this show, all right?
Oh, mom.
My kids.
Yeah, I'm sure your mom has heard worse.
I'm
Come
sure
on.
she has. I'm sure she has. So.
Oh God.
God.
I have lots of boys, Carl. They'll be sending in pics.
Oh, they're gonna love it.
Great. And if I get pics, I'm forwarding them right over to you, and I'm
Yeah.
not even looking at them,
Yeah.
Carl. All right.
Yeah, I'll send one, but I don't need anything to like base the measurement off of. You know what I mean? No, nothing, no rulers or like things in the background to compare it to.
Oh,
This
boy.
is Sober Pod. Anyways,
Two
I like
Worlds
to
Worlds
collide.
To
Yeah,
help
two
at
worlds collide,
friendsandrecoverypodcast.com.
exactly. So anyways, I'd like to also thank Genesis House for their ongoing support. Without Genesis House, we would not be able to do this. So thank you guys for supporting this.
Can I also thank
stuff.
Genesis House, and not in a bad way either? Genesis House has sponsored Sober Pod for I don't even know now, like
Yes.
a year and a half or something like that. And so Genesis House has been the primary support to make it like break even for us. Like, so it used to cost us a lot of money to do this stuff. And personally, like we spent our money for like the first 4 years. And so Genesis House, I asked if they would like to be a sponsor, and they did. And I just thought that was just the most generous thing. It has been ongoing, and it has been just beautiful. We've made our jokes about Genesis House, as people know, but it's all been in good fun. And I do want to say I really appreciate it. I'm really grateful that Genesis House stepped up to do that stuff. It has really been a pleasure to have support along those lines. Just wanted to say that outright.
Great. Yeah, thanks.
And then
Paul.
I won't say like the nickname that we normally give them.
I already said it. I sneaked it out a little bit earlier.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I heard catch it.
So all you Silver Pie fans know it's Genital House.
Oh!
There it is. There it is, guys.
Seeking
If they
more
didn't catch me, they
sponsors.
caught it now.
I was trying to be sincere, man.
Oh God, that was nice, Carl. Anyways, all right. So we're gonna do some sober shout outs here. Real quick, and I know a couple of us have them, but sober shout outs today. I got Donnie S. He's out of Minnesota, actually, with 1 year. And I have Kim L. I believe she's out of Massachusetts with 1 year today. So congratulations, guys, on that. And now, Tiff, you have.
Do you know, I have a cousin that's Donnie S.
Oh, do you? Out of Minnesota?
Out of Minnesota.
It's probably him.
Really?
You never know. Never
right.
know.
Never know. Big things happening.
That's
All
right.
right. I do have a sober shout out. I just wanted to give a sober shout out to the Agnes Water Group. The Agnes Water Group is a group of men and women,
Drunks.
of people, right? Stayed sober. But anyway, they run 24/7 meetings. So if you go to the aa.org website, on their meeting list, they run a meeting 24/7, and that
cool.
takes a lot of dedication. Oh my gosh. A lot of dedication from a lot of people to run that 24/7 meeting, and
Yeah.
they listen to our podcast.
Wow.
So,
Hello,
yeah,
guys.
They have
I'm
they
sorry.
have a messenger group, and they're out of Australia.
Wow.
Nice.
Yes.
Wow.
And so Agnes Water Group, thank you very much for all
And then,
of the service.
by the way, AA updated their website. So if you guys want to, like, things are much more easier to find now. So go to aa.org, and like, it just like right off the bat, it's like find a meeting is like in the
Oh,
upper
really?
right. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's pretty nice. Yeah.
Good. So you'll find all that there. So we're gonna real quick just check in, see how everybody's doing, and
Thanks.
I promise we'll
You
get
have a
to
shout
step
out, Scott?
2. Oh, Sky, you have a sober shout out?
I do. I
Okay.
have 2 alumni from Genesis
Oh, yeah.
House.
Important.
One from Jersey, Ashley M. She just had 10 years. And then Jim A from
Congratulations.
Florida. Not from Florida, but living in Florida. He's
All
10 years
right.
as well.
All
Awesome.
right.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Right?
Carl,
Good
anything
deals.
on your end? Anything on your end, Carl?
No.
Sober pod end?
No.
See, nobody
Keep
listens to
coming
that
back.
show,
Keep coming
right?
back.
Nobody listens. Yeah.
Nah.
Sober pod will grow up to be like Friends in Recovery one day.
Do a shout out to Eeyore.
Got dick pics though.
Wah, wah, wah.
You've got to make names up.
Uh-huh.
Bob M, Sarah K.
Tom, John.
Yeah. There's somebody out there that wants to celebrate. So, how's everybody doing this week before we get into step 2? Because it's going to be a struggle through step 2, especially with Carl here.
boy.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
kidding.
I actually got mine picked out already. I know exactly. I know my paragraph I'm picking to read.
I had a busy week. I tell you what, guys, step 2 came in handy for me this week because I traveled for the first time since my diverticulitis and hospital attack. And I was a little freaked out, man. I was a little freaked out this week. And as Friday came near, because when I got sick, that was that Friday I got sick and I ended up in the hospital for 8 days in Massachusetts. I was like, God, I need you now to restore me to sanity, man. Get this shit out of my head. Thursday night's coming. Friday morning, I ran 5 miles, right? And I'm like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? And
That's your problem right there. Is you're still
I know.
trying to run.
happened. Oh, is that what it is?
Stop doing that.
Got to stop running.
You don't make the body work. It's just totally gonna
It just
be
sits
fine.
there. It's good.
stop punishing it.
But I was fine. Everything was good. And, I really did think back to step 2, but I had a great week this week and I'm really excited to have Carl on the show. You guys know that we're very good friends back. We talk a lot of shit back and forth, but
Yeah,
Sober
we
Pod,
do talk outside of podcasts, which
We
is
do.
cool. Like
do,
I just think, it's like I always tell like my wife, I'm like, if I like Ed is like my brother. Like if I had gotten sober a long time ago, or like if my brother had gotten sober a long time ago, right? Yeah, it just
Absolutely.
feels we just connect instantly.
We
It's
do.
just how it
Yeah,
goes.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we do kind of talk outside the. We never met, but when we do, I'm sure Carl give me a big kiss on the lips. So
Ooh.
He gets a lot of dick pics. Let's just say.
I do,
Oh, God.
absolutely. How you doing, Carl?
I'm doing good, actually. I mean, I'm still crazy. There's no doubt about that. I still, my head still gets to me. I still have, all the issues that I think, a normal neurotic, obsessive, compulsive person should have.
Nice.
They're quote unquote, manageable, right? To a certain degree, they're manageable. But it sometimes it takes time. Sometimes, throughout the week, I will get insecure. I will get, myself, low self-esteem comes creeping back in, and, those types of things. But, I'm every day is progressive. Every day is a little bit better than it used to be. I was talking to a dude. Oh, by the way, I was talking to a dude from Minnesota, which, by the way, grew up in the same town that I like. It's so weird. So I met him in a meeting, and he has like, whatever, 30 years, but he like said he was from Minnesota. So after the meeting, I went and said, hey, what part of Minnesota? He literally from the exact same town, which is
Wow.
so mind blowing. I spent like 8-9 years in that town. And so, I got to talking to him, and he's been a really good confidant in this situation, right? So he's been helping me a lot with like, kind of like my, just the more, those deep inside thoughts that like really mess with you, the ones, right? Like the ones that when you wake up in the morning and you kind of got to shake off, and you can be like, okay, I'm not that person, but why does that voice keep telling me I am? It's like he's been helping me a lot with that a lot, and it's been super cool actually. And he's been, there's very few people in the world, and it's funny, like, I don't know if you guys have those people in your life, but they tell you when you're doing good, and it's like, oh, he's like one of those people that says, he goes, but this is what you're doing right. And like, and keep doing that. And I'm just like, oh, I just needed to hear I was doing something right today. So thank you. That kind of a thing. So that was my week actually.
Cool. Cool. And Carl didn't mean town. He meant correctional facility.
No, I meant asylum.
Asylum correctional facility. Yes. Okay.
The asylum in the town. The asylum.
Yes,
in
there
the
you
town.
go. Exactly. So Tiff, how you doing?
Oh, well, it's been really super cold here. So we've been kind of honed up in the house and, trying to stay warm. It's been like 18 below, and it's been, it's really cold. So you guys keep sending me these photos of your outside. Ooh, look, I'm all bundled up and, working out. And I'm like, yeah, right. Like there's nobody going outside in Minnesota right now. So it's been cold. But we're going ice fishing today because I think it's going to be above 0 today. So we're going to go ice fishing after the show.
Warm.
Awesome.
Get some shorts on.
Right? Chris, I'll take a picture of Chris in his shorts inside the ice house. So we're planning on taking you ice fishing when you come to town, Ed. So
I have to cancel when I come into town. I forgot to tell you.
He drops his pen, starts running. But the week has been pretty good. I've although it's been a little chaotic with the kids and their schedule, and I'm always going to be talking about the kids and being chaotic, right? But I've had a lot of good recovery this week. A lot of different people reaching out, which have helped me with my own recovery. I attended a couple of speaker meetings, which I don't attend a lot of speaker meetings, but there are some good speakers that I listened to that kind of, like you were talking about, Carl, like randomly, like people get put in your path, and it's like, wow, like I didn't realize that's what I needed today.
Yeah.
And I did need some of those messages today, especially talking about step 2 again, which we're going to be doing today. And then kind of finishing out the month with the tradition. I've been thinking about last week's show and how important it is that I'm so grateful we're in the time that we are, and grateful for Bill and Bob for starting this whole thing, and keeping me sober by running this program. And I was really looking forward this week to doing this Two Worlds Collide, because we've been giving each other shit so much back and forth. And anyway, that was my week. It was pretty slow because I was trying to stay warm, but I did get some great recovery out of it, because I was able to attend some meetings online that I normally wouldn't attend. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Great.
So yeah.
Great.
How about you, Sky?
Well, you mentioned those pictures that we're sending, and we have a Snapchat. I've been like reaching out to the alumni, and like that's what I've been doing. It's been helping my accountability. I struggle sometimes with like the seasonal depression. I think just being in the house. I don't know if it's necessarily like a diagnosis. I just think that exercise helps me during these months, some type, just to get out and moving. And I've been doing good with it this week, and I'm proud of myself because gosh, my sponsor used to always say it too. Skylar, you're never going to see what you do right if you're always looking at what you do wrong. And like, you know what, you're right. When you said that, I think, what did I do good this week? Thank you, Carl. I appreciate that, because that had me think back to like some positive shit. So it's a good week so far.
Good. And you know what, that's, I love that people are kind of picking out the positive stuff, you know what I mean? Pulling out the positive stuff, because I said something to my sponsor the other day, and I thought it was like the end of the world. It was something stupid, something stupid in my head. And he didn't dwell on whatever the negativity was. He dealt on the solution of it. I was like, I got a pretty cool sponsor, because he didn't yell at me it was stupid. It was like I cursed somebody, or I gave somebody, whatever it was. I had to tell him. I forgot. I can't even remember what it was, but that's so I'm glad you brought that up, Carl. And that is actually great that we can do that today. So let's get into step 2, guys. I think everybody's been waiting long enough. And stay tuned for the battle at the end of SoberPod and Friends in Recovery giving each other shit, man. Don't click off early like we know most of you fucking guys do.
I have my script ready.
Yeah. And Carl's only one. Carl's only one against 3. So and we do miss Chelsea. Chelsea couldn't be here today, but she'll be on an upcoming show. So
I look forward to that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So step 2, came to believe power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity.
That's it. Okay. Thank you, ladies.
That's it. We're done.
I'm restored.
It's so proud.
Done.
Friends in Recovery best. This is an acceptance. This is an acceptance step, guys. And I'll read the short little blurb underneath it. I guess it's the short version of the step. What can we believe in? AA does not demand belief. 12 steps are only suggestions. Importance, and this is page 5, guys, of the 12 and 12. Importance of an open mind, variety of ways to faith, substitution of AA as a higher power, plot of the disillusioned, roadblock of indifference and prejudice, lost faith found in AA, problems in intellectually and self-sufficiency, negative and positive thinking, self-righteousness. Defiance is an outstanding characteristic of alcoholics. Step 2 is a rallying point to sanity, right relationships with God. Okay, meeting's over, guys. I'm done.
Now it's done.
So we're gonna kind of touch base on all that. I know step 2 to me, it came to believe a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity. I'm going to be honest with you guys. This step, I was so far down the scale. I was so far into my addiction, and I had pretty good faith that I knew I had to grab onto something. And I was Catholic school, the whole 9 yards. I knew how to grab onto something, because if I didn't, I was going to die. I'll be honest, I'll even take a step, even be more honest. I wanted a power greater than myself to bring my wife back. So I really grabbed onto God, asking him, as God of my understanding, to bring my wife back to me. At the time, she's not my wife anymore. So, but I did come to believe that there's a power greater than myself can bring me back to where I've been, and because I couldn't do it. For me to go and ask for help, and I don't care if whatever it was, however we asked for help, that's again, this is my look at it. That's a power greater than ourselves, restoring us to sanity. Even if the courts intervene, if your loved one intervene, whatever it is, power greater than self, and that's kind of where I kind of fell into it. So step 2 wasn't hard for me. What about you guys?
Well, I mean, for me, and again, this is just my perspective, I had a really hard time with the concept of a higher power. I had a really hard time thinking of the words power greater than myself. I did, however, like the words could restore me to sanity, because I was so far gone, just like you were talking about, Ed. I would have given anything to be restored to anyone to restore me to sanity.
Yeah,
And
bring me
I
up a fucking notch, and I can't be down here the rest of my life.
Right,
Bring me up one notch. I was looking for one notch. I wasn't looking for what I got today. I'll be honest with you.
Right. And really what honestly happened is the first step gave me the problem. And the problem was the alcohol, right? And the problem, after I had given up my powerlessness and understood what that meant. And now this is really my first solution step. And this is providing me with the solution. And the solution to me, I had a lot of those prejudice that you talked about, that you read in the beginning in that description.
Mhm.
I thought that I had to be on this narrow path of religion. I thought this was going to be some sort of religious program, and I didn't know anything about religion. Sunday school to me was getting dropped off on a Sunday, and coloring on some coloring sheets, and then I'd get picked up later, right? It was like a Sunday version of the daycare center.
Mhm.
And the narrow path that I was on came from my 2 grandmas. And my one grandma was this God-fearing woman, and I really thought that I couldn't go to my problems with this God figure because he was too busy for a person like me. And he was also somebody to be feared. And then I had my other grandma who was like, God is everything, but she also had a husband who was an alcoholic. She also had spent lots of time in Al-Anon and AA and things like that. So, but she also was just a believer. You could just feel it, like she had that little grandma spirit that was the believer. And like she is really tiny too, and she talks in the first person and all these things, and grandma says this and that and whatever. But I wanted to be restored to sanity. I was one of those people. I also didn't get onto the thing of that I could pick something of my own. I was not in that group either. But I really relied on the group of drunks, that idea that something was greater than myself, because I wasn't getting myself out of anything, right? I was just in trouble, and I couldn't solve it, and I couldn't do anything on my own willpower. And so I ended up using really the group of drunks, because in the beginning, and that was at step 2. And it was as I understood it, right? As soon as I worked with a sponsor and they were telling me that it was just, as I understood it, and I could put my head down and keep working on my recovery, then I could move forward. So this step kind of came in a few different parts. It took me a while. As much as I thought I wanted to be restored to sanity, it took me a while.
Yeah,
I believed in it. It was just the higher power thing. I was being held back by that because I did want to believe, like my grandma believed, that one little, happy grandma, that, the Lord was everything. And I also wanted to have that sprinkle, that spirit that I could see everybody in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous had, that I wanted. Yeah. And so I did want to put my head down and work the steps like my life depended on it, because it did. And so I didn't let it hold me back. So,
and Tiff, you make a great point. It says could restore us to sanity, and that doesn't mean it's going to restore us to sanity the minute we believe. It's a process. Each one of these steps are a process that you have to do over and over in life, but it will eventually. You get your marbles back eventually. You know what I mean? Just because you believe in God and you sit with your response, yeah, I believe in God, yeah, I'm a holy roller, yeah. You're not going to be. This takes work. These steps, and if of course if you're listening and you say that. I said I had an easy time with this step. I had an easy time with believing in the God part. The sanity part, I'm still fucking crazy because we have Carl on the show. This was stupid,
Hello.
No, just kidding. But no, it slowly comes back, and I like how you made that point in the as far as it slowly does come back to us.
what changed my mind was I didn't know this spiritual experience, spiritual awakening. What does that mean? Like all these, it was a big step for me. There was a lot coming at me. But when like I said, this is where the importance of that sponsor came in for me, because they gave me the ability to move on. They gave me that push, right, over that hurdle of all these words. And is this a religious program? Is this not a religious program? Just shut the fuck up, right? Work on being restored to sanity. Really,
I like Tiff.
I have that all
You
or
can't
nothing
have her on sober pod.
I have that all or nothing thinking though, where I have to do it all, like perfectly at once, right? And otherwise I'm going to completely push it aside and do fucking nothing, right? And I was scared enough not to do be in that second part where I wasn't going to do nothing. I needed to do something, and that something was to just reading that, like we talked about yesterday, Ed, the appendix in the big book of the spiritual experience, where okay, I can move on from this thing. I can. It's about being willing, right? It was just about being willing to believe in something bigger than myself, that I wasn't the one who was in control anymore. And whatever that willingness was going to be, in the future, I didn't have to worry about it at that time. I just needed to just put my head down and start working. So I was willing and capable of believing in something greater than myself. And I did use the group of people in the beginning.
And that's how you have to look at it. Group of drunks, God of your understanding, however it is, Carl, what's your thoughts on that? And also before we go with that, comment below, guys, with some of the stuff that you might be thinking, or send us an email, help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. But let's hear what
these guys may want comments. I do not want comments. Okay, I'm really too insecure and I can't take it. So please don't
comment for Sober Pod.
No, just don't. Sky, I don't want to jump out of your guys' rhythm. Sky, do you want to go? Do you want to? Are you prepared?
No, you can actually go.
Oh, nice. So I'm going to read out two books actually. Sorry if I don't because it just occurred to me as like I went through the steps originally. And much like you, Tiff, I am not dealing with this step 2 shit. I could easily understand I have an issue with alcohol and drugs. Every time I approach drugs, those wonderful friends of mine, they fuck me over every time, and it's just not a good relationship, right?
Right.
My relationship with alcohol and drugs, it always ends up with me in a bad situation. So but again, I'm walking into AA and they tell me that this is the solution, right? All these people that are sitting in these goddamn chairs, all these old toothless people, all these old bald white guys. Sorry, Ed. Because I am one of them now. I'm like, and they all say like this is what you should be doing, and I could easily do the whole power. Even my life is unmanageable, but I still didn't understand that, right? But so again, I think that I do, but I don't. So I go into step 2, and then I read in the 12 and 12, and it says, this is the paragraph that is me, and it's literally the second paragraph of step 2 in the 12 and 12. Let's look first at the case of the one who says he won't believe, the belligerent one. Okay? He is in a state of mind which can be described only as savage. His whole philosophy of life, in which he is so gloried, is threatened. It's bad enough, he thinks, to admit alcohol has him down for keeps. But now, still smarting from that admission, he is faced with something really impossible. How he does cherish the thought that man, risen so majestically from a single cell, the primordial ooze, is the spearhead of evolution and therefore the only God that his universe knows. Must he renounce all this to save himself? This is what I really like. At this juncture, his AA sponsor usually laughs. Right. So,
Yes.
yeah. So this newcomer thinks that he is just about the last straw. This is the beginning of the end, and so it is the beginning of the end of his old life and the beginning of his emergence into a new one. His sponsor probably says, take it easy. The hoop you have to jump through is a lot wider than you think. At least I've found it so. So did a friend of mine who was a one-time vice president of the American Atheist Society, but he got through this room. He got through with room to spare. So, I sit there and I go, okay, so you're telling me the vice president of the American Atheist Society basically has worked this step at some point, or
Right.
previous. So I'm like, and I'm coming at this really more as an agnostic. I thought that I was atheist, but as I worked through the steps, and by the way, this step in particular, I was the dude that would sit in rooms, like I swear people would be like, I went to this one meeting at 7:30 every night for a year, and every time it came to any of these religious, spiritual, blah blah blah, I've struggled with this shit for a long time, and I was that dude that always like, I can't get past this whole God thing, and I just thought I had to get it all. I thought I thought step 2 was step 12, right?
Yes.
Like I thought I had to get this whole spiritual awakening experience thing, like in step 2, like in my brain, like just and I didn't understand any of that shit. So then this is what I read. I went through the steps again back in 2019 for SoberPod. We did all the steps like you guys are doing, but in 2019, and as part of that, my sponsor handed me a book, and he's like, "All right, like you got to read this," and I'm like. And I was like, really? I got to read this fucking thing? Do I have to do it? And so it was the 12 Steps to Spiritual Awakening by Herb K. And it's another step process book, but he gives you homework. You got to read the big book. You got to read the 12 and 12. You got to do all the homework. You got to answer these reflection questions. It's a lot of work. And so I was like, well, it'd be cool if I did this as well as did the podcast at the same time. And so here's the thing. If you guys go back and listen to us doing step 2, right, and us talking about step 2, you're going to hear a totally different person out of me, right?
Yes. Yes.
Amen. Amen, because it's a lifelong process.
I did that, Carl. I listened to all your shows, and then I went through all the steps with you guys going through it for the whole year.
Yeah. And I'm a completely different person from that person that went through this step 2 process. So here's what I also read in some of those things that came out of me. And so this is Herb K, and he talked about this, and I have it highlighted, so I totally agree in this scenario. It was a chapter 4 of the big book, We Agnostics, addresses both agnostics and atheists. Agnostic comes from the Greek word which gnosis, right, which means knowledge. The prefix a is a negative, and that means no, right? So the word agnostic basically means no knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. Therefore, an agnostic is a person who says the existence of God is unknowable. It says, so atheist comes from the Greek word theos, which means God, right? So the prefix a, again, is a negative. An atheist believes there is no God, right? So both agnostics and atheists are correct in a way, because a human's finite mind cannot know what what it is, we symbolize by the word God, the infinite, uncaused cause, the source of all that is. Any word we use is totally inadequate, right? So that's where I kind of had to go. Like, I mean, as an agnostic, I just have to know, like, in my heart of hearts, that like, there's no way I can know God, but I can feel it. I can see it. I can experience it. I can sense it. All these things that have come to pass for me are completely, totally different. Like even we just talked about running into that that guy from Minnesota, right? And those types of things. I feel the presence in spirituality in that way with that person, and so that connection that I have, even with Ed and with this other guy. Like that's where I started to experience more of that going on in my life. But as it related to step 2, I had no clue. And I honestly, like, you know, I hoped for sanity because I really like,
Still don't have it, but
yes,
keep hoping.
And I was like, oh, that would be wonderful. But you know, I know this much, is that there is a certain amount of clarity that comes to me each and every new day. And I know more and experience more. I don't know what I don't know more than anything. Right. You know, I realize that my upbringing, I am also, by the way, ACA, alcoholic, you know, addict, you know, I mean, I'm compulsive. I've shit that goes on, right? I'm a good mess. Right? But I mean, in positive ways too. So, but I know that all those things are necessary. Like, that's just who I am, right? I'm not defective. Yeah, it's just what I experience. So, you may define it as insanity. I define it as like a good time.
having fun in life. Real quick, I want to talk about what you were just talking about, the atheist and the agnostic. And I just want to kind of throw it out there and kind of get everybody's opinion on it, but it's a power greater than themselves. This step says nothing about God. This step says nothing about a God figure or a whatever. But so
for the intellectual, okay, I mean, they're gonna run right into immediately. They're gonna go into God and spirituality. Like, they're not good. Like, it is next evolution. And I think even the 12 and 12 is like, what if these people doing to me, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're trying to convert me. Exactly.
It's the first paragraph. But here's my thing. Like, what was your power greater than yourself? Did you get turned off by step 2? Was it like,
totally,
okay, well,
totally. But again, when you walk into the rooms and you sit with people that are all headed in the same direction, there is a power, there's a force that exists, and you sense it. I drove home from my first meeting back to AA at 42 years old because I went there and I shut up and I listened, and the readings like triggered all my, like, you know, treatment upbringing and time that I've spent in the rooms. And I flashed back big time, and I was like, but I drove home and I cried without the radio on. And I cried not because I was like, oh, like I found my place. It was like, I cried because I was like, oh shit, I found my place. You know, because I did not want to be in AA, but I knew instinctively that there was something going on there that I needed that I did not have. And so that's literally my first feeling or access to power, right? And I couldn't name that. I couldn't voice that before. But I knew instinctively, like, this is where the power is. And so whether that was coming through a group of drunks, whether that was the power of the process of the steps, whether there was something going on there, I couldn't name it.
Well, and I like that you said I couldn't name it. And for everybody listening, if you do have a hard time with step 2, you don't have to name it right at first. You really don't. No. You just have to believe in something, whatever it is. And it could be just something in your head that got you somewhere where you need to be.
That feeling.
It was the feeling for me, just like what Carl was talking about. It was the feeling. I wanted that feeling that everybody had in that room. I wanted that feeling. I wanted to hold on to that feeling after that first AA meeting. And again, I'm of the educational variety. I had to look back and learn. I was a spiritual awakening. It happened and developed over time for me, you know, and I was like, Carl, and reflecting on it now, I see it plain as day. but in the moment it was a feeling. And so,
but it's also a struggle too. It's and again, and this goes back to like the same stories that analogies of like in us there is a a black wolf and a white wolf, and evil and good, and which one wins is whichever one you feed, right? And that for me, like that was the struggle, right? Like I literally knew inside of me there was I know it sounds like religious, but there was a battle for my soul going on, right? And it's like it was a struggle between good and evil. And everybody talks about like a little angel and devil on your shoulder kind of thing.
Yeah.
My dudes were going at it like hand-to-hand combat, man. That's like, so that's what I knew. But I wrestled with that stuff intellectually, like, and you say, Tiff, it's like I like one day I'd wake up and I go, it's all bullshit. Next day I'd wake up and I go, oh, there's birds are chirping and the sun is shining. And,
right.
It's like, so go get me a cup of coffee. Yay.
Life is good.
Yeah. Right. And then other days I just wake up, it's completely miserable,
Rose-colored glasses. Sky, what?
Sorry, go ahead.
No. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, remember when people first explained to you what the pink cloud was? That feeling, that was the feeling that I wanted to keep. I wanted to keep that pink cloud forever that people had described. This, this feeling of fullness where you're happy, where all these things had come back into your life. And I knew that was coming from somewhere and I didn't want to lose it. But I was also moving at the speed of trust. And my trust was not very, it wasn't up there in the beginning. So that's all I wanted to say, was that I wanted to keep that feeling of the pink cloud. I didn't want it to go away.
Yeah. It's hard to believe.
Can I get in there? I'm getting tired.
Yeah.
Please, y'all.
She's dying to say something.
Sit down and be humble, damn it. So, one thing about step 2 that I really like, that I think that a lot of us discount, because I don't think we even think that but it was like my first time I was honest, because I was honestly telling you I don't fucking like God. And you asked me honestly, do I believe in God? And I didn't lie. I didn't people please like Skylar does. I didn't say, yeah, no, I believe him. Yeah. Oh God. No, I was like, no, I fucking wanted to die. And the God didn't let me die. He kept me here. But I knew that this therapist I had in treatment, Rob, and even to this day, I still find it in people. There's this professor I work with at Rutgers, Dr. Battle, same thing. And he's not even in recovery. Sometimes people carry this energy. There's, like you said, this force, right? And it's like, I saw that in Rob and was like, I don't know what that is, but I want that. You know what I mean? And it was like, I was open-minded just a little bit to whatever he had going on. You know what I mean? And you're right. It's so much has to do with the trust thing, but it's like the hope too. The hope turns into faith. You know what I mean? And it's like, this is like where we see, all right, the alcohol and the drugs weren't the problem. My thinking is. This is where I'm at now. Now I'm going to figure out how to deal with this thinking. And guess what? Like the thing is that my thinking is that it's all jacked up, and I have this faith in the wrong thought. My fucking thinking's fucked up.
Yeah.
So help me get the thought in the right direction is what you guys did. You know what I mean? Like be open to that idea, the hope, the faith. You know what I mean? I think that's really what I loved about it, is because, like you said, the group was so powerful, and I just didn't know how to be honest. And that was one of the first few, besides the admission I'm an addict. But then to say, honestly, I don't like this thing that I've been taught all my life. I don't like it. I don't like it. And I want, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that I always think is cool.
Skylar, you made that's a great point, because Catholic school growing up, this is the God that, we were told to believe in. My God, or my higher power, just to, kind of keep it as tradition, as step 2, is not the same higher power that I knew back in grammar school. It's completely different. I'm not afraid of God. It's not a fearful God. It's not a punishing God. It's a healing God. It's a God that's going to take me to places I can never imagine I could have been, as long as I do what I'm supposed to be doing, work the steps, go to meetings, stay sober, the whole 9 yards. I don't never want to revert back to, the God of everybody, the Catholic Church's understanding. We'll probably get bad fucking letters.
And I get super emotional with this step. I'm not even gonna lie.
Bashing the Catholic Church.
Yeah. Right. Oh God, don't even get this Catholic Church started. This step's kind of emotional too, because like there was so many days I felt hopeless, and then I come in here and you guys have hope. Like
Yeah.
you said, Carl, you're a mess, but like you turn into the message, really.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like that's the things that happen here. And we're like, and that's because honestly, if you think back to the insanity, I built those prison walls.
Oh,
I
yeah.
built
Yeah,
those
yeah,
prison
yeah,
walls
yeah.
myself. So that's why I get upset because I'm like, I can still do that in recovery, put myself in that prison.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, dude, I need help. Someone help me. I'm fucking clean, but I'm crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh
that
yeah. Oh yeah.
happens.
Oh, I know that
Oh
one.
yeah. Oh yeah.
No, and not in a, like a fun way either. Like,
No.
I know the crazy, like sick kind of way. Like, okay, good example, right? Make it personal. Okay, have you ever left your house having a real fucking shit day and you're like, you know what? I'm done. Like, fuck the world, fuck them all. Why? Every red light is about you, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you go to take a morning shit and you're like, fucking, like, why do I have to replace the fucking toilet paper right now? Why fucking me, right? It's like, your like spiritual malady is like climbing through the fucking roof when it's all like that. One day, and I shit you not, I am like year and a half, 2 years sober, right? I get in my fucking car and there's a red light, they've just installed 2 more red lights to get on the fucking freeway. Thank you very much. And they're
Assholes.
fucking doing that shit. And I fucking can't do it. I can't do 2 more fucking red lights. And I fucking just fucking hit the accelerator. I take the fucking side of the road. I do not stop for fucking 10 miles. Like if there was I went through red lights, stop signs, fucking side roads, you fucking name it. Dangerously fucking, like I could have killed anybody at any moment.
Yeah.
Right. But like, that's me at a year and a half sober. Like,
Yeah.
fuck, like
Yeah.
that is the craziness that exists in this life, right?
Yeah.
Like I am sober, but I am definitely not fucking manageable, right?
Yeah.
And that's scary shit. And then I got to get on the fucking phone and I got to call a sponsor and say, dude, this is what I just did and I can't imagine. Like, here's the other thing. I actually changed sponsors because at some point I wasn't getting that kind of message, right? And nothing was spiritual, and I needed a different
You blew
influence.
red lights.
in my life.
Cool. How many?
It's like, did you live? I'm like, well, yeah, I called you. But I needed something else in my life. And I'll tell you what, that's what happens. Like you stick in the rooms and you stick long enough and you will hear the message that you need to hear. There will be somebody that resonates for you and you just go attach on, man. Just like go tie yourself to that person. I don't care. And that's what I did. And I didn't even trust that. You talked about trusting, Skylar, and I couldn't trust. I still had issues. Even though I knew that I wanted something, I couldn't trust. And I was so afraid. And the one dude that like continued to call me, who had everything I wanted, right? Who is my sponsor today. He had everything I wanted, but I gave him my number and I was like, it was scary enough to do that. And then he would call me all the time. And then I still have my old sponsor so I talked to my old sponsor and I was like, why does this dude keep calling me? And he goes, I don't know. Why don't you ask him? And I was just like, oh shit, I never thought about doing that. Right. so then I asked the new dude, I go, dude, why do you call me? Right. And he goes, why do you think I call you? I go, because I think you're a Christian. You're trying to put me in a fucking trick bag and trying to convert me. That's what I think. Right. And that was the thing is like, and he's like, dude, like, he's like, no, he's like, I vaped at the time. He's like, no, I just want to be a part of your vaping society. I was like, dude, I call you because I'm an alcoholic and you're an alcoholic and we help each other. That's what we do.
That's it.
And
we always think
what were some fears you had that got in the way of that trust? Like you said, trust was hard. So what were some fears when you first came around?
Well,
like,
I think you touched on it to a certain degree is we, and I think you did too, Ed. I think we all have to a certain degree. My God was literally my parents, right? That's who I thought God was, right? And my parents neglected me. They abused me. They didn't fucking treat me well. Everything about them like was distrustful. Their words didn't match their actions. And when I prayed for my fucking daddy to come back, he never came back, right? So I could not trust, quote unquote, God or the idea of God. So when it came to higher power, that's what I associated with. But there was one dude in my life that I grew up with on my block. And I remember asking him, he was in the program, ironically. Isn't it funny how we drop seeds, right? And I remember when I was like 13 years old, I asked him if he believed in God. And he said, no, I don't believe in God, but I believe in a higher power. And he gave me the concept of a higher power at that point. And so it's really weird that, I remember that shit and hold on to it. But in terms of like trusting, so I had all that mistrust of parents. But what I didn't have is that trust of a friend. I didn't have any friends that stayed in my life. I wasn't a friend. I didn't know what it meant to be a friend.
Yeah.
And I got to learn those things. I get to practice on those people in AA, and then having those conversations of just being able to ask somebody like, what do you want from me? Right. Because that was my exchange of life. Right. In ACA, I learned all my relationships were transactional. I mean, my drug dealer, the bartender, it's like, those are all my relationships, it's like, and sex, it's like, none of my relationships were meaningful. And I couldn't just appreciate you guys because of who you were, God's children, quote unquote. I didn't, I never thought of that you have value just because you're here. Right. Just because you're you.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a weird thought, isn't it?
And I have to agree with that because like you said, everything was transactional. Everything was what are you going to do for me if I do for you? You know what I mean? In my and even sometimes in early recovery, you know what I mean? I had some selfish thoughts about getting my wife back, because here's the thing, guys. Early recovery, you guys know my story a little bit, for everybody here on Friends in Recovery. But I always wanted my wife back. And I thank God to this day, the God of my understanding, to this day, I didn't get my wife back, because I'm telling you, if I got her back, I would not be here today, because I would be using again. And my sponsor always says, Eddie, we get what we need, not what we want. And if we got what we wanted, we would gyp ourselves on what we needed. And it's so true that when he says that,
I would have got, managing drink better. That's what I would have got.
I would have got a mountain of cocaine, with a steam shovel in it,
Ernie
I'm glad
Larson.
I didn't get a few husbands back.
Or all of them at the same time.
Yeah. Well, at one point I did, and that was not good either.
Ooh, scary.
That's another show.
So Ernie Larson says, however you define recovery, that's what you're going to get. Right. Yeah. And I, at one point, defined recovery as not drinking or doing drugs. And, and that's like I said at the beginning, we don't know what we don't know. And I didn't know that I would enjoy having a higher power. I didn't know that I would enjoy having purpose or, a sense of value and meaning in my life. I didn't know I needed any of that shit.
No, I thought I had that.
Yeah.
I thought I had that.
Yeah.
And I thought, go ahead.
No, I want to go. No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
I thought that when I came into the rooms, I was already, I had already completed my inpatient program. I was attending an IOP, and I got scared one day because I was going to go out and use because of a resentment. I got really pissed off at Chris, and I took off. I was
fucking Chris. Oh, son of a bitch.
Always Chris.
I'll show you, right?
Fuck you, Chris.
And I'll hurt me.
Yeah.
I'll drink the poison. I'll show you.
I got scared. And so I finally went into the room. So, because I said AA was never going to be a part of my life. I'm never going to be a part of one of these programs. But that scared me.
Now she's on a fucking podcast. Okay?
Yes, right?
Talking about step 2, no less.
Yeah, step 2 nonetheless. And I walked into the room, and finally, after 6 tries, and I just was like, okay. I was ready to do step 2 because I had already fully completed step 1, basically through all of that other process, right? But I was so scared of that resentment and being brought back to that insane life that I had once before. So that's why I say that insanity part is what really okay, I can defend myself from this crap, right? I can protect myself from this crap. But the whole thing with the book, the way it was written, I didn't have a big, crazy spiritual experience like it says in Bill's story in the book, because they told me, read the first 164 pages. Well, fuck, it told me right away, I was supposed to have this big lightning strike and lightning bolt. And that wasn't the intent.
Yeah.
So We Agnostics was written for Bill. Because Bill didn't believe himself.
Exactly. Yeah. So did you guys have any issue with the language of insanity? Did you guys, any of you guys, go, you ever wrestle with I'm not technically insane, or, that kind of stuff?
Oh no, I knew I was insane. I left that treatment center. With
I like Tiff.
titles.
Skylar's putting a little thought
Yeah, I'm
into this
thinking,
one.
I don't know, man. Because there was so much denial. Like, it was difficult to see the insanity when I was in it, to be honest with you. Even when I first put the drugs down, it's still a little hard to see.
When I got into recovery, I was put into I tried to commit suicide, so I was put into a psych unit at first. I got stabilized and got put into another unit, but I never even thought about that. Actually, I just thought that everybody did what I did. I thought this was normal. I thought my drinking was normal. My drug use was normal. My womanizing was normal. And trying to kill yourself, I thought was normal. And
the dog and the peanut butter thing, that's normal.
Yeah. Well, that's another show too.
But I did too. I thought it was pretty normal. I thought it was normal that people like went through periods of their life that they didn't want to live. Like they thought that life would be better without them.
Yeah.
But
I think it gradually came. I think the sanity gradually came into my life, and not even realizing that this was an insane life unless you sit down and talk about it or think about it or go over it with your sponsor or kind of work through that, as far as that goes. But the one other thing I want to talk about, guys, was Carl, after you read that on 26 and on the 12 and 12, there was the 3 statements below that. And it says, first, Alcoholics Anonymous does not demand that you believe in anything. Okay, that's the first thing. All 12 steps are suggestions. Second, to get sober and stay sober, you don't have to swallow all of step 2 right away. That's really important right there, guys, because like I said before, step 2, you figure whatever the power of great in yourself, but this restoring your part to sanity, it takes a while to get that back. So if you think you're going to be on step 2, be restored to sanity in 3 months and then move on, it's not going to work, So that second statement is kind of important. And then the third is all you really need to do is truly open your mind. And Skylar touched about that before, and just resign from the debating society and quit bothering yourself with such deep questions as whether it is the hen or the egg that came first. And again, I say all you need is an open mind. And Sky, you hit on that before about being open-minded. And I think that's really key. The key part of this step is to keep an open mind. That's all that's all we need for step 2 is keep an open mind, whatever it is. And then that sanity will slowly come back.
The restoration.
Yeah,
and exactly. I looked up the word restoration because I was like, at first I didn't like that, but then I thought about it, how good of an example that was. And my brother said this to me when I went into Genesis House, actually. He said, Skylar, think about it of an old house. Like, you're just going to keep building on an old foundation, or you're going to gut it and build a solid foundation. And restoration is act of returning something to a former owner, place, or condition. Some synonyms: fixing, mending. None of that. Restoration. Think about when someone in your neighborhood restores a house. It never happens overnight. How long are those workers there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's just a small example of like just a house being built. And we're like, I'm 37 years of being built. I got to work on it,
Yeah. ACA, they talk about a soul rupture, that at some point in our lives, like, so adult children of alcoholics, adultchildren.org. At some point, there's a soul rupture, and there was a spot in our lives where, like, we could potentially go back to before things went sour, like, and in AA, they also talk about like, restoring you to a point of sanity, but basically, as God intended you to be, right? Before you went down the road that, of drugs, alcohol, dysfunction, and all these other things, there's a spot where you can kind of go back to and rebuild from there. And that's the foundation, right? And that's the job of the 12 steps, by the way. If you all don't know this, like, it's not there to like fucking build you up, right? Like, it's not there for that. That's why it sucks. That's why it fucking sucks. So the whole process of the 12 steps is like, you think like, oh, I'm going to come here so I can be a better person. No, fuck that shit. Like, it's actually there to tear you down, to erase all the fucking bullshit, all the noise that goes on,
habits,
all the bullshit. And then what happens is like, once you kind of come down to that level, and every step has a level of humility in it. There is like not one step that doesn't have a level of humility. And then what happens is that working on that foundation that you talked about, Sky, all those principles that we start to establish and gain, then life is what happens after that, because you've now put it into a context of like, following quote unquote God's will or a higher power's will, or, whatever the good orderly direction, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then now you are on that path. And so then life builds from there, right? You build your life from there. The steps don't build your life. They just give you the foundation in order to accomplish that.
Because the direction, it's direction it gives you too. And Carl, you were saying about humility. It says it wasn't, and this is continuation from those, not continuation, but on page 27, the second paragraph down, it says it wasn't AA that had the closed mind. It was me. And you want to talk about humility, admitting that I have a closed mind, admitting that I have, that I'm not open to everything, you know what I mean? And that's where this new direction comes in, these new
I was open to so much. There was that one time with that boy, I mean, I tried, I just couldn't get into it, but whatever. Everybody's been to college, right?
Please comment below on that one.
Yeah, comment below.
It's pretty open.
Want Carl back on the show. God. And it says, the minute I stopped arguing, I could begin to see and feel. Right. The minute I stopped arguing. Right. And that was kind of my whole thing. I even do that today. The minute I stop arguing today, that I can understand. I can kind of turn it all over and just understand it. And that's the insanity. That's where we get restored back to sanity. If we just stop being who we are, that old bullshit stuff, like what Carl was saying, the bullshit stuff, put it away. And then that's where we come back in, where I can see and feel, because that's what this fucking disease is about. Stopping the feelings and seeing what's right. When this disease wants to take us over, it fucking puts our feelings and the way and kind of distorts our thinking, or seeing what's going on in this real life. That's when it takes over, and I become an addict again, or use again. You know what I mean? So,
well, I just have the same behaviors of an addict. But sorry to interrupt again.
No,
I just love talking. But no, I guess I get excited about this stuff. So when we start talking, I just go, oh my God, I gotta say that part because that's really important.
Yeah.
So there is a moment when the door is open, and this is like the first step in which it starts to crack a little bit, in that open-mindedness. And when we talk about open-mindedness and throwing that stuff out, there's a story that we have of who we are, right? What we think, all that stuff is kind of caked into our existence, and we literally operate based off that existence. And for the first time, like the world or the universe or God or higher power or whatever is asking you for the first time to throw out all those preconceptions. And it talks about in the big book, throwing out those old ideas, right? And so this is an area where it's almost a sticking point for a lot of people, because it's asking you for the first time to throw out all your old ideas, right? You do this admission, and then it's asking you to like, hey, consider that, you might be, you might need to change, right? And then there's a second time that it happens too, is in step 6 and 7, right? And because this is the first time that for me anyway, it was like, if I don't have this identity, if I don't have this storyline, if I am not this person, then holy shit, what will I become? I am afraid of change and of moving forward. And then step 6 and 7 really reinforces that. And I was always afraid of what I might become, right? Because I don't want to become some religious zealot. Like, I don't want to be that person that's like, God, ripping out my Bible and doing all those things. And I want to have fun. And I never looked at those people as fun. But again, old ideas, and I need to be open to an idea of like, well, what can I be with in this thing? So it really is a very fragile moment to a crack in the ego, again, humility, old ideas, all this storyline of who we are, and to basically throw that shit out is super hard, and so I don't know anybody who does it right off the bat right away. And I mean, maybe some people have no issue with it, but for me it was definitely some issue. So
it's gradual. It's gradual.
It's a practice.
For me, it was gradual. Yeah, it's a practice. Absolutely. Yeah. Tiff, I see
Because
something
I
a
can take it
workbook
back.
going on over there.
Oh,
What?
no, it was just something I was looking at. It was one of those workbooks that I again went through the 12 steps like Carl was talking about, and it was the woman's way through the 12 steps. But anyway,
ooh, I should read that.
yeah, it's
That's
actually
good for
really,
me
really
and
I've heard
Carl.
great
Ask us
things about that.
questions.
It's a great.
Yeah, I've heard such good things.
Do they
Yeah,
talk about
so-
the time of the month?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, God.
That was for Sober Pod. That was for Sober Pod.
You know, we don't even do that on Sober Pod. You hit the limit, buddy.
There's a line, Ed Cross.
You crossed the
I
line.
just crossed it.
You went way past the line.
This is that line where the Dr. Jung or Dr. Jung
Young.
was talking
Jung.
about with
Yeah.
Ed with this crazy mental obsession. I'm just kidding. Anyway,
That's me. Yes, absolutely.
that's what We Agnostics was written was to put cast aside all those old ideas. And on page 47, it says, when therefore we speak to you of God, we mean your own conception or idea of God. And this applies to other spiritual expressions, which you'll find in this book. It says, do not let any prejudice you may have against spiritual terms deter you from honestly asking yourself what they mean to you.
Okay, but if we're not going to argue, we're not alcoholic, okay?
Seriously.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to do it. Like, we're just human. It's like you can't blame people for like trying to check that system. And so I feel so sad for some dudes and for myself, honestly, to think about like, like I could have gotten this thing long time ago, right?
Yeah.
But again, I fought this tooth and nail. This step, basically everything about. I was sitting in rooms totally like a non-believer, and even a non-believer in the group or whatever, right? And just thinking that I exist. I'm a cellular person. When I die, nothing more. There's no spirit. There's no blah, blah, and I think how sad today. Like, because today I look at that, I go, oh, like
no,
that,
but you have to look at it as
poor
growth,
sad person,
though. You look at it as growth. That's what you have to look at it as, that you grew into this other person. And here's the thing, sometimes I always say this, that sometimes we fall back into some of the old beliefs, but how long do we stay in them, right? We check ourselves and say, you know what, I can't be there anymore. And then I put that big distance in between when it happens again, So like you said at the beginning, Carl, we're human beings, we're gonna argue, but we don't have to argue every minute of the day. It can't be my way or the highway. I can't be right. I have to figure out what step 2 to me is. What, is there a God of my, is there a higher power? What would be the higher power? Is it God? Is it a coffee cup? Is it a group of drunks? Is it good orderly direction? That's the things that we really have to kind of understand and kind of get through and help me out here, Tiff. I'm losing my
what I
train
was
of
going to say is,
thought.
Carl's talking about how he fought this step tooth and nail. And
Yeah.
I would say I find the majority of people, in the rooms do fight this step tooth and nail.
Yeah.
I was the opposite. I wanted this step more than anything. I wanted that higher power. But I struggled. I couldn't figure out how to get it. I just couldn't. I didn't know how to get there until I started asking for help. This is where a sponsor really came in key for me, because I really thought I could do the steps on my own. I thought I was smarter than anyone. I thought I was, and that's where that self-will, that self righteousness, that self-centeredness. This is the step where I really figured out that I was a self-centered person. Like I was really that person. I didn't think I was. I thought I was so helpful and so great to everybody in the world. And, I was so, I just, people couldn't
so
live
gracious
in this world without me.
Yeah. You only believed in your willpower, but yet your willpower has only done nothing but failure to this point.
Right.
Well,
right.
it's
The irony there, right?
But I still was thinking that I was God. I until I realized that I was playing God, then I was able to move forward. But it took a sponsor or working with someone to do that, because I still, again, at this point, thought, like I said, buying all my workbooks, I thought I could do this all on my own, not with anybody else.
Oh, so you were just going to do the workbooks by yourself and just kind of go do it?
And just graduate. She had a cap and a gown.
Got her
I was
PhD.
gonna graduate this program.
Yeah, where do I buy my certificate? Is that the idea?
Yeah, she got her PhD.
You can print one out and sign it yourself, Carl.
Yeah.
Wait. Before we change topic, because we're on a really good topic in terms of the big book, I really wanted to say, like, this reminds me of like the bedevilments, right? So just if you're considering, quote unquote, this is we are on a spiritual and altruistic planes. This is what we exist in terms of AA. And then it says, like, which I really love. This is what got to me. This is what convinced me to go, like, maybe I don't have the answers. Maybe I do need to consider this thing, which is this. We had to ask ourselves why we shouldn't apply to our human problems the same readiness to change our point of view. Were we having trouble with personal relationships? We couldn't control our emotional nature. We were prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. Was not a basic solution of these bedevilments more important than whether we should see newsreels of lunar flight? Of course it was. You know, when we saw others solve their problems by a simple reliance upon the quote unquote spirit of the universe, we had to stop doubting the power of God. Our ideas did not work, but the God idea did. And so for me, I had been sober a while. I was running down stop signs and and passing through red lights, and my emotional nature was not necessarily all there. And I had to ask myself, was it not maybe I could give this a try. Maybe I could attempt to try and do this. And like it says, the hoop is bigger than you think.
Yes.
The doors of AA spread wider than you think, right? And I know some of you guys were thinking different, but I think that's not that AA. Her name isn't Ashley Anderson. All right. So the doors of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, are wider than you think. And so, sorry, Ashley, if that's your name, because that's going to be weird.
Oh, geez. Send that email to soberpod.com, Carl at soberpod.com.
Your name is Ashley Anderson, and you're listening to this. I am so sorry. But either way.
So this is God speaking to you, Ashley.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So think about the bedevilments in that way, like, and think about your life in terms of manageability, right? Like, so, and they're really looking for faith in a solution of that. And you talked about it too, Scholars, hope. Like, this is about hope. And it's like, do you think for a second that, like, if you have all that shit together, good for you. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
well, then that's
by the way, you can find this list of questions on page 52 of the big book,
which is also known as the bedevilments, is what they call it.
Yes, bedevilments or untreated alcoholism.
Yes. Yeah. But when you get into the room, they're called the promises. When you start becoming sober, that's
the other way. Yeah,
it goes the other way. That's where your life turns around once you start accepting all this stuff. And Carl, it's funny what you said before. Go listen back to the Sober Pod shows in 2019.
Thanks for the promotion. Yes,
there you go. I had to say that.
Season 2, episode 1. Yes, go for it.
Right. But go back and listen, and then listen to Carl today. And you'll see a big difference. And that's the same thing. Let's listen to Carl. It's 2022 now, and let's listen to this in 2025. And see where we're at, because it's growth. We need to grow through these steps, and especially this step. This step we can keep growing through and empower greater than ourselves and restore sanity. Because my sanity is never going to be restored. My sanity is always a work in progress. You know what I mean? Because I do stupid shit sometimes, right? I really do. And it's stuff that I shouldn't, I should I should get that perfect. No, I shouldn't get it perfect. Should I be more vigilant that I'm aware of the things that I do, maybe stupid stuff. And again, it's how long do I stay in it, and how far do I push, how far do I kind of have in between it? That's what I kind of see as far as that goes. So guys, we're gonna,
like you said, Carl touched on it too, is like, it's a process, because working the rest of the steps helps us get restored to sanity. Like you said in 6 and 7, like when we're not wanting to let go of those character defects and shortcomings because I'm fearful, I'm going to be a hole in the donut, or exactly. So it's like working the rest of the steps helps us keep restoring that sanity.
Yes,
process.
It does. Yeah, good point, Skylar. Very good point. So, guys, I want to just get everybody's last thoughts on this, unless anybody has anything else they want to talk about.
Oh no, I want to go for another hour. Let's
hey, listen. Well, we could do an hour for Sober Pod, hour for
and a half.
Friends in Recovery.
Hour and a half.
But no, because don't forget, we still have another month to go on these step 2. So we can't.
Oh my
burn the
gosh,
subject
burn
out.
it all up. I know it's hard.
Yeah,
It really
I
is
know.
hard. But you
I
guys
know.
are
Get so
covering
excited.
traditions. You guys are doing traditions too, though, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we are.
Which I really
Yeah.
love, by the way. That's just like
Yes.
that's like because we tried to do that in the beginning and we just couldn't. Like we're like fuck the traditions, like because everybody says that, right? But no, I
Yeah.
really enjoy that you guys are doing it. Please,
Yeah.
put some emphasis and time into that stuff. And I know that a lot of work goes into this. This, if you guys are listening, like this is not something that they just pop on and do, and the hour is done. And it's like there's preparation. You have to actually read and like go, oh fucking,
Yeah.
reflect, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of time to go through this stuff, and it changes you as a person to do this. So
It
that's
does.
really
Yes.
cool too.
Yeah.
You get the
yeah.
benefit, but it's a lot of work, and you have
Yeah.
to just even get 2 alcoholics together takes what, an act of God, right? It's like
Yeah.
go look at Bill and Bob,
Yeah.
So so it's very. I commend you guys again. I know what it takes to do this stuff because it can be very frustrating
Oh yeah.
to deal with
yeah.
other people for sure.
Yeah,
So
it is.
yeah.
It is. And listen to, I'm not promoting it, but that's when I started listening to Sober Pod, and they hooked me on that season with the steps. And you know what? I don't know how you guys did it, Carl. You guys really each week just kind of hammered away each step. It was just amazing how you guys did that. And, sometimes I get, like you were saying, you have to prepare, you have to do all this. I'm on an airplane reading step 2. Like it was my first time. I'm writing shit down.
Yeah. The
guy next to you is
sitting in
like,
front
no,
of
no, no,
everybody Talking, speaking on the airplane. You know what I mean? But no, but you're right. But the other thing too, is that, we have to kind of this is our lives, and when I was thinking about when we're going to do this, like, am I crazy? Like, why are we doing this? But I said, if Sober Pod can do it, we can do it. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, but you guys have a different perspective. You guys go from the atheist to the agnostic to the God
Yes.
perspective, and that is really helpful
Yeah.
because to someone, especially with this step in particular, when you guys did it, it was amazing for me because I was still early on in recovery, because that's when I was in recovery. I've only been sober since 2019, but it was very helpful, and I appreciated that you guys did that. But
and you bring up a really good point. There's problems in this for the believer, right?
Yes.
It's like the somebody coming back to this as actually after having denied God altogether, but having believed to begin with. There is that process there too. So, I mean, there's still more that we didn't cover, like in a lot of sense of that either.
Yeah.
And,
Yes,
so
that's
this way
the
more
last
to,
part of the step.
yeah.
Yeah, and who's this guy, John Barleycorn? Like, he comes up all the time. Like, who the fuck is he? Like,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
even like half this shit. I don't understand. Like John
Whiskey.
Barleycorn.
King alcohol, man. That's what
King alcohol,
beer,
I know,
beer.
I know. I get it. Why couldn't they put like Molson in there or
because it was written in
Budweiser?
1939.
Yeah,
I know.
because in '39 they were making their own, right?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But you're right, Carl. We didn't get into a lot of parts of the steps, and believe me,
But
we
we
can
will
go on
throughout
and
the
on.
month.
We will. Yeah,
Throughout
yeah,
the month,
we will.
get into the rest of step 2, because there are more sections in this book, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, that are dedicated to step 2 specifically than any other step in the books.
Yeah.
Or in the book. So we will get into it in the future episodes, and I think that's awesome. And then of course we do dedicate that one show to tradition 2. So that's also interesting. I appreciate that you pointed out how much work it takes, Carl, but really it's more fun than anything. I love researching it.
Yeah. You know what was
Getting back in it, reflecting.
more fun than researching and doing. The show was great, but using it like step 1, I'm like, yeah, we should be unified here. It doesn't matter if everybody isn't in agreements, we all have to be. I'm like, pounding my chest out in the real world,
It's showing up as I'm researching this stuff. It's showing up in my everyday life. To
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me.
True.
Actually, so I try to tell people, like, so when I went to go grab that book for the 12 Steps to Spiritual Awakening from Herb K, because I was going to do that and go along with the podcast, right? So I'm like, okay, so this will help me get much a fresher perspective and blah, blah, blah. I'll have to read all the book. And I thought I could literally do a step each month. And the podcast got way ahead of where I was.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, this is a lot of work. And I was really wanting to be thorough. And I made so much progress. It gave me so much more, like relationship to a higher power that I never had before. So going through the book actually really changed me a lot.
Yes.
And then doing the steps too, I was like, oh geez, like this is happening. And I felt so good about it. And I was, I don't even know when it was. It was like 5 years ago, so, but I feel like a completely different person from that person that you hear in 2019. I really do. And that just is amazing to me. So.
You say that, like that there's so much change. Think of how much hope that gives a person like me. I'm the one with the least amount of recovery here, right? And that to see that just looking back at my own personal growth in the last 2.5 years, I can't imagine what's going to happen when we do this show over and over and over, or how many times it comes up in my life that I get to be a part of this program. And that goes with tradition 1. I am now a part of something. That's about AA unity, right?
Yeah.
I am a part of something finally where I fit in. I never fit in anywhere before. So
I really enjoyed coming on to this podcast thinking like, Ed, where are you at? What state are you in?
I'm in Jersey.
And then Tiff, where are you at?
Minnesota.
And then Skylar, where are you at?
Jersey.
And then so I'm in Southern California. It's like I just enjoyed like thinking that we're kind of like like we need somebody in Texas or something like like we need to like hit
Every
all
time zone had some step work going on at the same time. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it.
I'll be in South Carolina soon, so then when I move to South Carolina, we can get you
divided
back
up.
on. Yeah. But Carl, one thing you did say is, and I forgot what I was going to say. I don't forget it. It's when we talk about it, 10,000 different things. That's the problem getting old. If you don't write shit down, man, forget it. You lose it. But anyways,
that's our ADHD going on. And
my God, it's like if I don't write stuff down, like forget it. It's gonna go all over the place, just like it has. Well, Carl, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on, and we've been talking about this for a while. One thing I do need to talk to Carl about, and stick around because this is going to get ugly here.
Oh, I'm ready. Hold on a second. Let me get adjusted physically.
Get up.
Take a deep breath. Okay, let's do this.
So I'm going to educate all you Sober Pod folks out there, okay? Because apparently they don't know their geological or geographical locations. So where did I say I was just from, right?
I don't know.
Jersey.
Yeah, it sounds like Boston, though.
Boston's.
Yeah,
lobsters. That's New England. That's New England, Sober Pod people.
Hey, you fucking with me? Hey, fuck you.
There you go.
Hey, I don't need this shit.
We have there you go. We have pizza and bagels and coffee
and lobsters. You got lobsters. I don't care who you are. You got lobsters in that region of the country.
There you go.
So confused. All right.
I'm just so happy that I'm not
in here. Help me.
I'm not getting picked on for my accent.
Yeah, I got my pop in my boat on my lake in Minnesota. Yeah, you betcha for sure.
Yeah.
Minnesota nice. That's what they say out there, right?
Yeah, they're
nice. I really
yeah.
try to play it neutral on this show, and it's so funny because Chris says that I have the epitome of the Minnesota accent. He's like, it is so bad.
Yeah.
So
well,
anyway.
Skylar's stuck between Philly and New Jersey. She's in a tough spot because it's like, are you Philly or anything past like 195 and south? Mm-hmm. In my eyes is fucking Philly. Anything north of that is New York. See, New Jersey, we don't have an identity, man. You know what I mean? So if you look at a map, 195 cuts New Jersey in half. That half that I grew up in, that's like New York. That's where the New York, the coffee.
Yeah. New York.
South, the
South Philly.
Stacy's is really bad. Stacy. I listen to her in the background when we have the loved ones show going on, and I just can't help but laugh half the time because
she has that New York accent. Yes. And Carl, you're just hanging loose
Well,
out there.
I went back to Minnesota because I spent 9 years there, and it's funny because I took on the accent there, and then when I came back to California, and I immediately get my California pack, right? You know, I'm a true codependent. I just a chameleon adapting
Yes.
wherever I go, and then so the funny part is like when I would get shit faced in Minnesota, like my California and Minnesota would mix and turn me to an Irish dude, like you know, everything became a question. You know, are we going over there? You know, are we coming back here? Like, where are we going? You know,
Where are we going?
yeah, totally, yeah.
Oh god.
Oh my God.
Well, guys,
funny, yeah?
the two worlds collide. Great show. I really enjoyed it, and I always enjoy when Carl comes on here, and hopefully Chelsea will be on next time. Chelsea, we miss you. You know, hopefully the next show we'll get her on and get her going, and you know,
This was awesome.
it was. So, any closing remarks before I take us out? We're all good.
We're all good. I'm going ice
anything to the
fishing,
silver-
so
There
I'm
you
going
go.
to slaughter them.
Get your lobsters
them.
ready.
That's it. Get your lobsters ready. You gonna catch lobsters in that fucking pond?
I do have some closing remarks. Actually, can I
Go ahead.
get some promotion in here?
Sure.
So if anybody's listening to this point, thank you very much because you are the you're an actual listener. So so because
And
you know
you
most
win the
people don't,
prize.
27 of them. We have
most people don't make
27.
it to the end. It's like you look at the stats and it's like you get about a 50% drop off about a fucking third of the way through,
Yeah.
and then it just continues to go. And you're like it's like you get about 10% of the people left. So you 10% of the people, right? Soberpod.com, we have a members only section. We're going to start doing like a health and fitness dude in there. So he's going to, he's also going to be on like Soberpod live on our Facebook. And then, I do whatever freebies. And I think he's really just going to focus on like, your new to sobriety, getting your, physicality back. You're focusing on nutrition,
Yeah.
Those types of things. He's not an addict or an alcoholic himself, so I think you could just make fun of him that way. But he's a
One of those
nutritionist.
people.
He's certified. He has his certification for his fitness, nutrition, and all that good stuff. So there's that, and that's going to be coming up, in the next few months anyway.
Good.
So we're preparing all that stuff, and again. He's not like charging anything at this point for this stuff, it's like, so I think that's pretty cool. But he, of course, if you become one of his clients, all the better, right?
Yeah,
Those
of
types of
course.
things. So he's a family friend that I've known for like 20 years. And I was just like, I saw him doing this stuff and I was like, that would be kind of interesting because I like,
That's
I need,
awesome.
I need to
Yeah.
actually do stuff, be physical, those types of things.
Yeah.
So, and we talk about, body, mind, and spirit, and we don't do a lot for the body sometimes. So,
Yeah.
so I thought that would be cool.
True.
And then, except Ed, you run like a goddamn racehorse. Like, I don't understand how you do that. But either way. So, and then of course, please go back and like we talked about, SoberPod for 2019, and and follow along. I know that you guys are doing the steps, but please, like as in addition to go back and listen to that stuff.
Yeah.
That is something that
Oh,
I
yeah.
am the most proud of in
Yeah.
terms of stuff that I've put out into the world. And I know that you guys are just as proud of doing your stuff too. But to hear, like, I have people that still reference that, like that I run into, and I just go, oh, that's so wonderful,
Yeah.
just to be able to have that stuff out there, and for yourself, go listen, because it's like, if you're in recovery, it'll keep it top of mind. It'll keep you in the solution, and that's really what that was about. And that's where we even came up with, how does this apply to recovery?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's a lot and the shows are a lot of fun too, guys. It's not just hardcore AA, step work. It's a lot of fun also on top of it all.
A lot of ball jokes, a lot of ass jokes, a lot of shit jokes.
That's it, exactly. A lot of sober pod stuff going on over there. So.
Talk about ass play a lot, whatever.
Well,
Weird.
guys, this is really going south, and I think we should
Okay,
end it
sorry,
here.
sorry. No, thank you for allowing me the comments. Thank you.
God. Well, guys, anyways, thanks, Carl. Thanks, SoberPod. Thank you, SoberPod listeners. We appreciate it. Thank you, Friends in Recovery listeners. I really urge our Friends in Recovery listeners to get over and listen to those shows that Carl was talking about. Listen to a lot of the SoberPod shows. A lot of good stuff going on over there, and we really appreciate appreciate your friendship, Carl. We really do.
Oh,
and,
thank you.
It's
You too.
just been a blessing, and stay sober, everybody.
This concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates, and enjoy free access to twice daily support meetings. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.